Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Shweta Jain. I welcome you all in WOW series. And today we have come up with another interesting subject, which is trending now, social audit beyond the books. And we have with us Chairman WIRC Ketan Sayya, Secretary Jinal Savla, Treasurer Fenil Shah, Vijendra Jain, Regional Council Member and Speaker of today's session, Ruta Chitale. Before moving further, I request everyone to please put your hand on your heart for the ICI motto.
य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति कामं 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 कामपुरुषो पुरुषो निर्विमाणः निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता 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 एतद्वैता.
Thank you. Friends, how many of us have ever been part of an audit where the stakeholders were not just a management, but the community? I think hardly. So that's the shift we are talking about today, that from balance sheet to beneficiary and from vouchers to voices. Social audit is not just your typical audit. It does not stop at ticking boxes or verifying numbers. It asks you so many things like, was the money spent meaningfully? Did it reach to the people it was meant for? Or were those people given a say in how it was used? So, and we can say that social audit is not led by auditors alone, it's driven by people. Here, citizen becomes auditor and the ground reality becomes an audit evidence. So, when we say beyond the books, we are talking about a journey from the compliances to concise and accountability and governance. So, how we as professionals can support this shift, that is the talk. To guide us on the subject, today we have with us very learned personality, Ruta Chitale. So, past regional council member, we have worked together. I'm sure this topic will be perfectly taken by the members from you, madam. So before we dive deeper into today's theme and the subject, I would like to take a moment to sincerely appreciate our dynamic chairman, our leader at WIRC, Ketan Sayya sir. I can say he has not only been a guiding force, but also a tirelessly driver of initiatives that truly serve the interest of both members and students. Under his able leadership, we have seen a consistent efforts to make our profession more inclusive, more empowered, and more future ready. So, shining example, we can see the latest series we have started is Bhagyodaya series, an initiative that specially focused on small and medium practitioners, ensuring their voices are heard and their challenges are addressed and their growth is supported. So, sir, your commitment is creating meaningful opportunity, and the platform like this is inspiring, and we are truly grateful to work with your
Thank you.
vision and your dedication. So
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
equally compliment secretary and treasurer both. The team is really working very hard. So first I would like to address from you all, and then we'll go further for the today's session. Jinal madam, over to you.
Thank you, Shweta ma'am. It is glad to, share a screen with so many learned regional council members under the dynamic chairmanship of Ketan Sayya sir. So, and yes, we have formal regional council member Ruta ma'am. So, friends, under the dynamic leadership of Ketan bhai, we have planned a number of activities, programs, help desk, study groups. So, looking forward for your collective participation. And yes, we have Vijendra Jain, regional council colleague over here. So, over to you, Vijus bhai.
Thank you, Secretary Madam. I think WOW series is a very wonderful series, which is an initiative taken by the chairman. Kudos to the chairman. And as we know, this WOW has been started in the past, which I seen by Shweta Madam as well as Pinky Madam, Ruta Madam. You all are the witness of this wonderful things, and kudos to chairman, and take the benefit in life for benefit of the members. And I'm sure the today's speaker is very wow, very gel up with the every members and the favorite of everyone, the heart of the Pune, and another speaker of the day, Ruta Madam. I'm very happy to see you, ma'am. And really, we council miss you, your presence in the WRC. And about to you, Secretary Madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Viju bhai. So, yes, with this, may I request our chairman, sir, CA Ketan Sayya, to address us?
Thank you, Jinal Madam, Shweta Madam, for all your kind words. I think, I'm blessed with such a wonderful council, including Vijendra Bhai. They all actually work and they keep giving me credit. Actually, it's their hard work, and I'm just the receiver of the credit. So thank you to all of you. And yes, coming to the topic, yeah, we have seen, first of all, Ruta Madam, as I said, we are missing you in the council. I mean, a very matured person, very, very calm person. We have seen her, talking to the point in the council, and with whenever she will talk, there will be some substance in the talk which she will, make a point in the council. So really missing, some such worthy person in the regional council. But nonetheless, we thought that we'll have her as a speaker, as a protocol. We never call the regional council member as a speaker, but now she is a past regional council member, so we thought we'll have that benefit of her talking on a topic like social audit. Of course, the attendance is less. I regret that, but I'm sure when we post this, the entire session on live on YouTube, there are a number of people who watch it and have been consistently looking at that trend. That moment some such offbeat topic is there, the people online will be lesser, but the view, there are a lot of views post this. So same thing I'm sure will happen with this meeting also. When we post on a YouTube, there'll be a lot of people watching this. And so the one of the new point which Shweta Madam said, this is the area which is there for the future. Today the entire focus of the young generation is no more it's on the profit. If we see, it is naturally the planet first, people, and then profit. So the entire gamut shift of paradigm shift is there from profit to planet and people. And if we see the ESG audit which is coming up, the way listed companies are carrying out the ESG audit, I think very, very important. And today for a chartered accountant is to study these 1,000 companies. I was going through, one of the largest listed company, and I could see some of the unique reporting which is happening. I think we must know. I'm sure, with the learned speaker, we'll be dealing upon various aspects. I'm not going into the nitty gritty of topic, but the energy cost. Do we have an habit of switching off the lights when we are coming out? It's a very simple point, but are we, when we are getting up from our cabin or our bedroom, are we switching off the light? I mean, saving such small thing. If that happens at the company level, I think, the resources conservation will happen in a large number. And I think, as rightly told by Shweta Madam, the reporting here in the gamut of, entire gamut of ESG is completely different. Will be completely different. And when we study such data, I think it is thrilling. And not only chartered accountant will have to employ some other professionals like engineer also in some of the assignment where we can do wonders. And I think the days are not far that these audits will be applicable to the the down the line companies also. and which will be a big opportunities for all medium size and small size chartered accountant. Today, maybe the work may be concentrated with the large firm, but if we are geared up and if we are able to demonstrate that we are capable of doing these type of audit, I think social audit will be one of the most promising area in the time to come, and there will be huge revenue out of this. Not only that, I think the risk content, if we see as compared to the financial audit, it will be lesser as compared to the financial audit. So with this opening remark, let me once again thank our today's worthy speaker, Ruta Madam, for sparing her valuable time. Madam, thank you so much, and we will have some such physical session also as and when time permits and as and when the circumstances permits. But I'm sure the institute is blessed with people like you who are always available in the form of regional council member, in the form of speaker, in the form of volunteer for all the event. So thank you so much from bottom of my heart. Thank you, and over to you, Shweta Madam.
Thank you, Chairman Sir, for your words, and completely agree that Ruta is really so kind. And we all know Ruta, but for participants, I will formally introduce Ruta Madam. She is, of course, BCom FCA and certified diploma in information system audit, forensic and fraud detection, concurrent audit, INDES, IFRS, BRSR, AI, practicing, I think, more than 20 years now, and immediate past regional council member, of course, and past chairman of Pune branch too. Experience more in, I think, statutory audit of government companies, listed companies, unlisted companies, large trust, multi-state cooperative banks. She is a regular speaker at various forum on varied subjects like formation of trust and taxation, CARO, accounting standard, audit and agriculture advances, LFAR, and etc. She is a social person too, and founder of charitable foundation Seva, which works in education and training, especially to the needy people. So with this small and brief introduction, I welcome you, Ruta Madam, at the platform of WIRC. Thank you for coming, and over to you for your session.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to sincerely thank Ketan Bhai. The reason is that when we were speaking at one of the branches where we met, and I said that I am also a social auditor. So he instantly said that why don't you introduce this topic to all other members? And that is, I think, Shweta Madam, which you mentioned, that SMEs, his vision for SMEs, that itself says that how he is looking out for various opportunities even for SMEs. As he rightly mentioned, I am also sure that this social audit would be a rage in near future, perhaps after the 1,000 companies, and then it will go on to the next level of companies. So thank you, Ketan sir. It is my pleasure to be speaking on this social audit, and it's all thanks to you. Shweta Madam, our work, and she is really so sincere in her work and exceptionally brilliant, because I could see it with her innovative ideas in the council and the way she has executed it. So it was really a blessing working with you, Shweta.
Thank you.
Jinal, I have not known her, but what I can see, she looks very capable. And Vijendra Bhai, Penil Bhai, I have not known you, so thank you for being and making me a part of WOW series. Vijendra Bhai, I'm still awaiting the prasad from Vaishno Devi, and he is really a gem of a person. He's always available and always has a very happy person, I will say. So, thank you, Vijendra Bhai, so much for joining me here for this session. Having said so, really, social audit, what is it? Before that, I'll share my screen. So, just a moment. Uh, yeah, Shweta, can you
It's
please?
visible.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. So once again, I also really miss being in the council and actually doing things there. So, but thank you for connecting me through this WOW series.
It's a
As
really
we begin,
pleasure.
uh, so Now about social audit, as Shweta madam and Ketan bhai has already mentioned that yes, this will be an upcoming area of future. Even that is also my real wish and also thought that yes, it will be so. Coming to what really is social audit, today what we will be doing and covering is a brief introduction of to how exactly a social audit is. We have been hearing about this theme or terminology, social audit, ESG, CSR, and all those things, how they are related. What exactly is social audit? We'll have an overview. How to do the social audit in a brief, short manner to for you to get a flavor of how social audit is different from financial audit. So that's why the name of the session is Beyond the Books, Uncovering Impact Through Social Audit. The idea is to understand what is impact and how it is different from income. So, income is in the sense of revenues, actual money, but impact is something that goes beyond the money. So, beyond the books, there are certain things which are really affecting us in the real world, but yet they are not captured in the books of accounts. Some things like non-financial things, which we will be looking at what exactly they are and how it matters nowadays. Also, this concept is been there for a lot of time. We'll also look at that, and we'll have some case studies, one or two case studies, which I would like to discuss so that you will have a real life flavor of how things happen in actually when we are carrying out the social audit. Before that, some disclaimers and credits. So the disclaimers are that all views in the presentation, comments, and the PPT all belong to me, my personal opinion, and please do not construe it as official use of ICAR. The images that whichever I have used are only considered to be free by me. I've tried my best to use free images and they are only for illustrative purposes. These are some credits from which I have derived my presentation, some thoughts derived from inputs from my friends Ashwini Zatkar and Dr. Priya Agashe. And then there is also study material NISM. Why I have listed the credits here, the only reason is that if at all some point you would want to elaborate or read in detail, please you can also make use of this presentations and the NISM study books or the references that have been given here, so that if any concept is required to be read by you in detail, please feel free to use this. And that's the reason of mentioning this credits. Now, how will we do it? This is some background. In the first part, we will understand what is exactly social audit, where it started, how different it is from financial audit, and in general, CSR or ESG universe. So, emergence of social audit, how social audit has come up over the period of number of years. Actually, if you really look at it, and I started reading also about social audit, I found that there was one person, he was a professor in UK college, that was Theodore Krebs. He was called the conscience of business schools. That is, he had thought that businesses should not only take from the society, but give also something back. See, this is the point where the businesses, while giving employment to people, are also generating some social impact. So he tried to understand what is the working conditions, what is the social things that the businesses are doing. And that was actually the start of the concept known as social audit. In early 1970s, I also found some reports which were made in UK and European countries, especially by SMEs, where they tried to capture that whether really the accounting only is or that is to be reported, or there is something beyond audit, beyond accounts, beyond money. And that was where this particular report was formulated, known as SA, that is social ethical accounting and auditing and reporting. So that was also the start of the reporting concepts on social audit. As far as India is concerned, this particular idea got root in the 1970s when TISCO, that is Tata Steel Iron and Steel Company, performed its first social audit. And then how social audit can be used for in a better manner was actually shown by this Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sangathan MKSS, which used the social audit phenomena or a thought or this particular concept to fight corruption in public works. Say, for example, if there is a road that is being constructed, and labor is used everything, but really whether it is impactful. If you are from Pune, you will understand that there is a development going on in one of the areas which we call as Tekri. That is a hilly area, and where actually there are a lot of trees, and it's called like the oxygen place of Pune, or lungs of Pune, you can say. The Tekris are known as lungs of Pune. And the developmental plan includes a road going across one of these hills. Now, this is a development plan, okay, but really whether it is useful, what is so if it is a development plan, it will definitely put some money in the pockets of, say, laborers, small time workers, and those. But really, whether it will be useful, will have a useful impact. They are saying that because of this particular road, it will reduce the pollution because there will be less congestion of traffic. But how far it will impact the entire Tekdi area or the hilly area, and whether that is more better, or whether we can have some alternative means to find out, like say something like a subway which goes below the hill, whether it can be used. So this kind of things can be understood, or thought of, if the social audit concepts are also used. Then the real change came when the Right to Information Act 2005 came into force, and that created a real access to the things, like actual impact situations. Say, for example, Narega, that is National Rural Employment Guarantee Schemes, Manarega, which is more specifically called. So those Manarega activities are public, for public good, right? But then, really, whether it is creating an impact, we would not never know it unless we get some figures, some numbers, and that is the basis for understanding the impact, at least for the quantitative part of the entire scene. So this Right to Information Act was created, an access to such data, and was a very effective tool in starting the social audit scene in India. So coming there, what is this right to information? It is, if you say, my right, my might, the right to know, keeping government accountable. This was the original thought of social audit. See, there was huge government spending, there was investments from national and international bodies, but where did this fund actually go? Where did they land? And whether the social development programs have really made an impact? Because if you actually see, you can imagine, right from independence, almost 75 years, there are some or the other schemes going on. Some or the a lot of funds have been put into various programs. But have we really seen any impact? Now, this Right to Information Act helps us to understand this impact, and also to understand whether really, in numbers, of course, that whether there has been any change. This was the background of how social audit has come to evolve in India up to a certain point in time. But exactly what is social audit? So, if these are the various definitions, social audit per se does not have a single or a specific definition, but this is a concept, and it is made a culmination of various thoughts. So, what are these thoughts? This is related to, say, one point here says that social audit is the process of reviewing and verifying social accounts. So, what are social accounts? Let's have a look at it a bit later. Come to the next definition. It is social auditing is a process that enables an organization to assess and demonstrate. Assess is to identify, calculate, and understand. And then not only understand and calculate, but also to demonstrate. What is demonstrate? If I do something and I say that, okay, I have employed so many people, but if am unable to demonstrate it to someone, so it is some kind of a standard. That is what this definition is trying to say, that even demonstration is also equally important in some measures, or some quantitative and qualitative measures. So, social audit enables the organization to assess and demonstrates what its social, economic, and environmental benefits, and also limitations. Because such type of this is not exactly quantifiable, but some aspects are related to even quality. And then that is one of the limitations of social audits. That also has to be stated very clearly and understood also very clearly while one is carrying out social audit. So it measures the extent to which organization lives up to the shared values and objectives that it has committed to. Each organization or any organization for that matter cannot work in different areas. It generally selects one particular area for work. Say, for example, if I have formed an organization, it is for to work with needy and poor children, especially in education, because I believe that education is the pathway to a higher form of life, a better form of life. But there will be people who will say that it is not only education. First, we will have to feed the people, and then it is possible to learn. So there are different angles. So a company or an organization needs to choose a particular way or a particular area in which they want to work. So whatever they have decided and the parameters they have decided, whether they have actually performed it. So that is what something the social audit will help them to understand. So social auditing then assesses the impact of the organization's non-financial objectives, how it will assess this non-financial objectives by systematically and regularly monitoring its performance. So monitoring of performance, you cannot do something for say education or for poor children and the next day there will be a outcome of it. It is not possible. It has to be a continuous process. Then Narega, that is I recently mentioned, Narega defines social audit as this: reviewing official records and determining whether state reported expenditure, state reported means the government, whatever they are reporting, the expenditures are really the actual money spent on the ground. That is, see, look at the picture. If this is one of the activities carried out under the Narega scheme, in that case they have say budgeted x amount will be given to laborers, okay, and they have made some records. Now the social auditor who is performing or carrying out the social audit in this context would have to check really whether the utilization is towards the monies that are accounted for and how much they are spent, more on the lines of utilization. But social audit actually is still a more of a bigger concept than this Narega definition. But I thought I should try and showcase how all different angles are there to social audit. So, what is the difference? Let us quickly go through the difference in social audit so that we can actually move on towards what exactly is social audit. So, this will help to understand what I have understood the difference between a social audit and a financial audit. So, financial audit, as we all know, includes financial records and a scrutiny. However, social audit involves performance measuring, where there is no specific parameter or a standard to measure it. So that is one of the key differences where it is difficult also to understand really what is the performance. In case of financial audits, it is very easy to understand organization's performance because it is based upon numbers and easily quantifiable figures like revenue or income or profit. But in case of social audit, it is very difficult to understand that whether the performance indicators are what in the first place and whether they have been achieved. In case of say financial audit, the focus is on while we are carrying out the audit of any person or any business, then the focus is on finding out whether there is transgression of any law or whether any policies or say accounting standards. But here there is no transgression. There is nothing right or wrong in that sense. Except say maybe utilization of monies, but really here the focus is on the impact and not on the commercial laws. In case of financial audit, it is also important to be accurate in as far as numbers are concerned in financial statements and also the fairness of facts presented. As we say, what is our opinion as to how reasonable the presentation is, whether it is fair and reasonably correct. But here, the fair distribution of benefits is important to understand. See, it is completely a different focus as far as social audit is concerned. See, here it is efficient use of resources, and here it is effective use. I really like this word because it really encapsulates what exactly is social audit. It is an effective use. It is not only efficient use. See, the resources are limited, as we all know, but how they are used, whether they are effectively used is important. Ketan Bhai just mentioned about the fact that we also need to understand whether the lights are if we go out of the room, we should ensure that the lights are off, right? I've also seen this particular angle being used in a slightly different manner. When I was auditing a process of a company, the company had come out with a policy. This is more of a financial or cost saving measure, but look at the thought. The company had come out with a policy that there will be no person working in the company after 6 o'clock, that is 6 p.m. The reason behind this was that the lights should be off and the energy bill drastically came down after the offices were shut at 6 p.m. The management said use natural light as much as possible. See, that is also an optimum use of resources. From a social point of view or a social audit point of view, this is effective use of resources in the sense that we are reducing the consumption of even the electricity. And that is important, not only from the cost saving point of view, but also from the natural environmental concern point of view. So please understand that this entire angle or concept of social audit is way different from what we are trying and understanding when we are carrying out the statutory audit or internal audit. We are focusing, I feel, more on the commercial or the money part of it. But whereas we have to, even I am also learning in this particular area of social audit where I have to think differently from the non-financial point of view. For chartered accountants, though I feel as auditing comes naturally, maybe because of years of practice, but to understand the non-financial indicators and to work upon them, it's slightly difficult, but at the same time, very much creatively satisfying. So please go. You can try and have any assignment on social audit, or even try to think about even in your office maybe that whether and how much are we socially in the sense environmentally conscious. This all pictures are of I term it as CSR universe. Okay, what is this? These are different concepts. They are related, but at the same time different from each other. See, on one hand, there is BSE, SSE. What is SSE? Is Social Stock Exchange. Now, Social Stock Exchange is there are two stock exchanges right now working in India. One is BSE, that is Bombay Stock Exchange, ka SSE, and another one is NSE, that is National Stock Exchange, uska Social Stock Exchange. So what is social stock exchange? If you remember, 3 years ago, Nirmala Tai had mentioned in her finance speech that social stock exchange will now be implemented in India. It is where all the not-for-profit organizations, and then there are some other organizations, though they are for-profit, they can register themselves under SSE, that is Social Stock Exchange, and that is the starting point where it is easier for them to access the CSR funds. In fact, I personally feel that over the period, this type will be regulated, and those people who are working in the CSR space would be made compulsory to register on the social stock exchange so as to get CSR funds. Now coming to ESG, see, it is environmental social governance as everyone knows, but ESG particularly is a concept. Okay, it is a concept. But then BRSR or social audit are one of the tools of this concept. Even if you just remember this, ESG is like a big universe and frameworks or to assess whether ESG goals have been met or not. There are frameworks like BRSR. That is, see, on the extreme left side, you would see BRSR, that is business responsibility and sustainability reporting. These are the 1,000 companies that we were talking about. And Ketan Bhai and Shweta Madam had mentioned at the beginning of the session that now the listed companies by market value, top 1,000 listed companies are applicable to for this BRSR reporting. And soon, right now, even though the BRSR reporting, BRSR core it is called, is confined to maybe some top giant auditing companies, it will be soon where this type BRSR reporting will be made or compulsory or mandatory down the line. And at that point, I think this is a big opportunity waiting for us. So we must try and understand what exactly are these concepts and how they are related. If you see this is social audit, then CSR, as everybody knows that there is also CSR made compulsory for all those companies who have profit above rupees 5 crores. So this is one of the places where social audit is related, not exactly overlapping the part, but social audit impact report is required. Even if some people give CSR funds really, whether they were utilized properly, not utilized in the sense of money and invoices and bills, but really whether they were used for what they were meant to do. So somewhere this angle of social audit comes into play. This is all whole thing what is known as CSR universe. Now, what are the different types of social audit? Where the social audit is used, and then we will go on to what is social audit. So types of social audits, as I mentioned, Monarega or now it is not, it's called Monarega. Are social audits done? Yes, they are legally mandated. If you remember, in Right to Information Act came in 2005. Almost, I think, since around that time itself, the social audit concept also started to understand that what is the social impact of all these government schemes. If you look through, then the quantity, there's a lot of frequency in of such type of social audits is quite high related to Narega schemes in Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and those states. They are the comment here is related to how exactly the social audit is implemented currently. So the annual audits takes place with the help of Jan Sunwais, that is public hearing, where public participation is also considered in case of carrying out social audit. So it is somewhere in outside countries. It is also known as people's audit. Audits that are carried out by the people for the people. CSR projects. CSR projects, as we all know, are a part of ESGs and also where the companies try and give back to the society in the form of CSR funds. Increasingly, as a part of impact assessment and ESG reporting frameworks, this particular social audit is carried out. They are, it's not mandatorily yet, but it will be so over the companies, and mostly it is carried out by reputed corporates. In addition to utilization, they are also important for them to understand whether really they were used properly as they were thought of. NGO projects, these are this type of social audit is generally carried out by the major donors, and they more actually focus currently more on utilization, but this is required by the funding agencies. However, it is imperative that over the period of time they will come on to this concept of social audit. Then there are some urban local bodies, not really like smart cities or someone who try and carry out social audit, but really it is a very rare case. But I've tried to list out these things where the opportunities are possible if the people who are in control of funds think right, if they think that there is high risk of misutilization, or where if they are made aware that their funds may or may not be used for what they have thought, there is a risk perception amongst them, then perhaps they would go for social audit. So this is where the other threes are listed out, where projects like smart cities or some water drainage system or such type of projects are carried out by some societies or some corporates or some individuals who come together. And if they really want to know how exactly a social audit, I mean, whether exactly that project is working or not, then social audit is possible. Our a point or our strength lies in the fact that if we make them aware of things that are beyond the utilization or beyond finance, and then they understand about it, and then they also are made aware that it is not only money that creates a change, but also this thought that whether a recapitulation of ideas, that whether really whatever you have thought has really made a change needs to be measured. That would create also a different kind of social change. conduct of social audit. The first point, now we are actually delving into how a social audit will be conducted. So while we are trying to understand what is a social audit and how to do it, this is the first area where I would like you to understand this concept first, because this is one of the most basic concepts in social audit, and that is known as theory of change. Now we have talked about different schemes that a person wishes to give funds to carry out, say, a tree plantation. Now carrying out tree plantation is a an activity. Now whether this activity has really taken place, how it has taken place, whether it is carrying out what exactly it intended to do, this change can be thought of through this model that is called as theory of change. It is a thought process, you can say, is a process how you think about uh, to measure the impact of social audit. Say the result of data analysis needs to be interpreted as per the theory of change. Now, what is data analysis will come a bit later when we are thinking about or carrying out actual social audit. But first, let us understand what is exactly theory of change. It is explaining, intends to explain the process of carrying out the measurement of social impact of the project or any program, and comparing it with what was intended and what actually happened. So, see, the second point here is the TOC model, that is theory of change model. What is the ideal theory of change model is that it carries out links between these three things. That what are the activities that are intended, how the inputs are made to those activities, then what are the outputs. I'll come to what exactly it is in a short while, and to outcomes, because all these are new concepts. See, output is different from outcome, and outcome is still different from impact. I'll give you a short case study, or let's discuss one particular case. This particular case was, made to study in the NISM exam. The NISM is a body which conducts the social audit exams. And if you remember, I've given in credits the NISM handbook. So in that handbook, this example is given. So the example is related to the intention or the idea of activity was to build toilets, okay, to build or construct toilets. Now, the problem statement why this activity was started by that particular village, the reason was the problem statement assessed by all the people were that there was a lack of toilets in that rural area or in that village. So they decide how to overcome this particular, especially in schools. Because if you know in rural schools, or if you have seen the movie in one of the movies, then it is a different notion that toilets should not be at the house. People should go out to relieve themselves. So they have thought in this particular village that even the students are not coming or the girls are not coming to school because of they feel shy, or they have to go a far way for doing their morning routine. So let us change this particular thing and build toilets facility for them in the school. So that is the activity that they have started. Now, what is the output? See, if you look at the theory of change model, the input to activities, the activity is to build toilets and construct toilets. Now they have constructed the toilets. See, now what will be the output? The output is how many schools have actually constructed this toilets. Say funds are given by someone, then how many students actually use it, and that is the quantitative factors, and how many children attend schools, or have started attending school because the toilets have been built. That is the output. Now, what is the outcome? So, please understand that there is a difference between output. Output is mostly consisting of quantitative factors, but outcome is more of quality, in the sense that whether there is an increased awareness about hygiene, about actually going to toilets than going to some faraway places, whether the sanitation and cleanliness awareness has increased, and whether the girls' attendance has also increased, because that is one of the thought of things. So this is the outcome of the activity of building toilets. Now, what is the impact? Impact is a long-term thing. You can understand and analyze outcome. Say once the toilet are built in next 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months, one can understand whether there is any quantity change in things. But we can understand the impact only after a period of time. It is not possible to understand the impact immediately, because one, if logically speaking, one has to give some time to understand or measure the impact. So what would be the impact? The impact here, one has, in social audit, one has to think of what the impact would be and then measure it. So the impact would be improved health of children, because how would one measure it? This is where the creativity comes. So maybe the doctors, uh, requirement of doctors has gone lower because health of the children and the adults have also increased. Then there is a developed interest in education. Whether this is really the case, that is what the social audit will try and analyze. Now, what are the assumptions here? The assumption here is basically this, that students would not feel shy in going to toilets and they actually use them. The girls also feel secured enough to use the toilets and come to school afterwards. That is the assumption, that they will feel so, and that's why this activity is being taken up. What are the risks? Even if the activity is being carried out, one, a social auditor will also have to think of the risk factor. The risk factor is that this may not happen as what was envisaged in the first place. The risk being that perhaps the people may, or the village would have exhausted all the funds and they will not repair it over the period of time. Or there is shortage of water, because if you understand, there is a lot of water problems. In that case, whether really this activity which was thought of has created the impact, what are the problems. So this is where the social audit angle will come in. If you look at the financial audit, we will just see, or even me as a chartered accountant and a financial auditor, I would only look at the fact that okay, the toilets have been constructed, the funds have been received, say 10 lakhs. I'll see the utilization, that there is a bill for say bricks, there is a bill for cement, there is a bill for toilet blocks and all those things. I'll check that whether the person has been correctly paid, the vendor also has been paid, the labor has been paid, and the funds that were received of 10 lakhs has been correctly utilized. So that is where my financial utilization would stop. But social audit starts at that point. What exactly happened after construction of toilet blocks? What was the impact? So this is where we go beyond the books to find out the impact. So this is our today's thing, and for that, one of the basic idea is to understand what is theory of change, because it is one of the basic frameworks while carrying out social audit. So a social auditor needs to study the outcomes and the real social impact of what, of the target segments, and to identify gaps. Identify gaps is also understanding the risk and trying to give solutions to mitigate those risks. A social auditor should also compare the actual results with the expected outcomes. And what is benchmark data, baseline data? We'll just use this particular phrases a bit later again when we are talking about how to conduct the social audit. Just remember that it is the audit thought is the same. The audit thought is what? To compare the actual with the standards. What is a query? When there is a difference between the standard and the actual, we have a query. Similarly, in case of social audit, instead of standard, there is an expectation. So, what is the difference between actual and expectation? Is our impact study. If at all, what are the problems? If there are any, if the impact has been really generated, how much it has been generated, that is the difference between the expectation of the activity from that activity and the actual impact created by the activity. So that is the exact place where we have to put our report form and opinion. So how to do a comments, how to do a social audit. So how to comments carrying out the social audit, first, as usual, formulate an audit program and also include the risk. See, why we have to understand even the risk here is, if we just looked at the recently the example that I gave about toilet blocks, we also have to understand the risk, because social audit also does not mean only about money, but we will also have to think that whether the risk were also considered before commencing that activity, and formulate the audit program accordingly, in order that this risk involved will also be captured while measuring the impact, and then also communicate this audit program to the relevant interested parties. Say, me and my friends were carrying out this, or rather, we are in the process of carrying out a social audit in case of some learning centers. In those learning centers, we first are to communicate to the people there who are dadas and tais who are handling that learning centers, that what we intend to do, what is that we wish to talk to the people who are using those learning centers, how the funds that are being utilized to create those learning centers, what was their expectation at the beginning, and then whether they have met the expectations. So utilization is one part, that building construction of learning center and creating amenities, but at the same time, what was the expected outcome and also the expected impact, and then coming to we are talking with the people who were affected by creation of this learning center. Affected means positively affected, and whether they have made any good use of it. So, talking to the relevant interested parties and formation of audit programs. So, what all we will be doing while carrying out audit, that we will be that we have already communicated with those relevant interested parties. Now we are waiting for them to come back to us, that how are we going to start our audit. So update the stakeholders periodically of audit progress. That is, this social audit is not a time frame audit. Like we are not able to complete it within a given time frame. It's also one of the limitations, that as far as financial audit is concerned, we are sure what is the end date, what is the due date where we have to complete the financial audit and give the signed balance sheets and form an opinion. But here, because it is dependent on so many stakeholders and so many factors, it is difficult for us to have a time frame. Of course, there is a loose time frame where we can try and complete the work of social audit in that particular time zone, but please understand that it is extremely difficult to put a timeline to social audit. One of the reasons is that the audit methods are completely dependent upon the stakeholders or the people whom we are trying to uh, you talk to and understand the. So, for example, if I look at this audit methods, then we'll come to it. Audit methods are two, basically classified into two. One is with human interaction and without human interaction. What is human interaction? See, if we need to understand impact, or whether it has positively done things. Quantity we can always find out with the help of numbers, and we need not have any human interaction. For example, number of toilet blocks built up in, say, the vicinity of that village, or inside three schools are there, how many toilet blocks were constructed, that I can easily find out. I need not wait for any human interaction to happen. I can easily use, RTR, or I can easily ask the people there to give me the data of how much was construction made, when it was made, and all that. But human interaction is where I will have to understand that whether these toilet blocks have really made a change or not. In that case, I will have to conduct interviews with the help of some questionnaires. Now, construction or formulation of questionnaire is itself a big task and a tricky one at that. Because I remember that in some old times when the social audit was started, they were trying to understand and assess the impact of family planning programs. Now, imagine this family planning program was, especially in educated class, it is easier also to communicate to them, interact with them, and understand the impact, or what is their thoughts on it. But imagine talking about family planning programs in, say, places like, if you know Dharavi, or very people where they are not really educated. They also have a taboo about talking about family planning. In such situations, formulation of questionnaire and also interviewing them itself is a big task. A girl talking to a lady is acceptable, especially in rural areas and especially on things like family planning. But imagine a situation where a boy is going and interviewing. See, right now, we are not so progressive enough, or at least that was my understanding of what I observed, that people were not so open to talk to her. Females were really, they were pretty reluctant to talk to family planning to small boys. They were really college going boys, but still they were pretty reluctant. So this kind of human interaction creates hindrances, while and that's why the time frame cannot be allocated, because then we had to reallocate the entire questionnaire to other than boys, and we had to take help of some girls, or we had to form a team of boys and girls where they could interact freely with the girls, and if there were men, boys could interact with them pretty freely. And then also some social taboos we encountered. So these kind of things are not really cannot be put up in a time frame, and that is where even the time also got extended. So that's why, so commencement of social before commencing the social audit, such type of we never encounter such problems while carrying out our normal financial audit programs. But while carrying out social audit programs or formulating these audit programs, please take into consideration such cultural angles as well. So interviews with questionnaires and checklists, that is human interaction, that is one of the audit methods. Another audit method, and it is not or, both have to be carried out while doing social audit. So it is document review or data analysis. Once the data is collected from different sources, or say from the questionnaires or some group discussions, then analyzing that is also one of the part of carrying out social audit. And last, in the commencement of social audit, we have to ensure a proper documentation of audit activities. That is, as we prepare a checklist for our financial audit, we also should create a checklist or make a review checklist for carrying out the social audit before we actually start doing the social audit. This is something that we have to sit and formulate first, after understanding what is the activity, what was the intended outcome, and all those things. We should formulate the social audit questionnaire or the method of carrying out social audit. Let's go to a case study now. And the reason is that now we have understood that in social audit, what is required to be done. So before we go on to the nitty-gritties of actual, data collection, what are the methods and all that, I will like to take up a case study before, so that if at all, if people are there, please interact with me. I will be happy if someone puts up the answers in the chat box, so that I'll also understand whether I am also making any difference. So coming to case study, let's quickly go through this. This is also a book on social audit, from wherein I have derived this case study, and this is input from my friend Ashwini Zatkar. So this is Surya Kumar Yadav SKY Foundation is a not NPO. I'll just tell you important things here, that this SKY Foundation is actually founded for addressing the issues on water conservation and basically increasing the water availability for irrigation. Now they also intend, their one of the intentions was to also increase the agricultural productivity. And because the agriculture produce has or yield has increased, it will naturally impact their livelihood, increase the green cover, etc. And because the standards on living has also increased, it will positively impact that area. Now, what they have chosen is that 18 villages situated in Ratnagiri district. That is what their activity was carried out. Now, where this activity was carried out in Ratnagiri district, with population of 25,000 people. And how the terrain is, it is a hilly terrain. And that is the reason why they face extreme water shortage despite receiving the rainfall. If you have been to Konkan anytime, you will see that there are slopes. Now, when there are slopes, the water, even though the rainfall is very heavy, the water drains off. And therefore, actually, there is water shortage in those areas. So what they have decided, the activity, the problem statement is this, that there is extreme water shortage. Now, what is the activity to overcome this problem statement is that they will be building storage facilities in that hilly terrain, and they have invested, say, XYZ amount, say 54 lakhs of rupees in that particular project. Now, they have carried out this project for 3 years, and their intention was to increase the water retention capacity and increase productivity. Naturally, if the water retention is there, it is easier to have agricultural produce in otherwise barren land, and that will increase the yield from that particular area. And overall, it will lead to an increase in agricultural production. Now, the total expenses budgeted for carrying out all such, it cannot be a one-time activity of building facilities, because see, at two villages, if they build, then next they go on, we have to build it for 18 villages. And please bear in mind the Konkan area, the rainfall is so heavy that it is possible that the dams may, or the bunds that are called, they may even wash off. In such situation, the expenditure to be made is pretty heavy. Now, further, it aims to conserve fertile soil. These are other activities or their aims, what they intend to do by building and constructing check dams. So, what they are trying to do here is that they will conserve fertile soil, reduce and harvest runoff rainwater, that is, harvest that rainwater which will run off down the hilly terrain, recharge groundwater tables, create green belts, increase agricultural productivity. That is what their aims are. Now, what is the activity that will actually take place? Please understand there is a difference between the aim, what is the activity aimed at, and what is actual activity that will be carried out. So, actual activity in this project is what? Construction of check dams, farm ponds, desettling, borewell recharge, and installing water pipeline. So these are the actual breakup of the activities that will be taken place. Aim is maybe sending children to school. We're not sending a child to the school. But what is the activity? Preparing him, getting his school bag. That is the activity. The aim might be to educate him. But for that, the activity is to send to school. And for sending to school, what all to be done? Can understand the difference between aims and activities. Now, this is what is the scenario in case of this Ratnagiri water integration project, water management project. So, come to this. Whether direct beneficiaries, now these are the structure on which the social audit is done. Now we have to understand who are the direct beneficiaries. So here I will like, if at all people are available, please make or reply here that who are the actual beneficiaries other than farmers, whether they will also include local business owners and communities. That is what I am looking for. Charul, is it possible that someone can answer here in the chat? Charul? Okay, if someone can answer here, please put it in the chat box that do you think that direct beneficiaries will also include local business owners and communities? I'll wait for a second. I think no one is here to reply, or maybe they are not able to, reply. So, Okay, in question and answer, chat is disabled. Okay, you can chat here. You can maybe put up your answer in this question answers only. I don't mind. I only need to understand whether the point I'm trying to make is understandable. So whether if you can guess whether the direct beneficiary of this activity, yes, that's right. The direct beneficiaries will also include local business owners and communities because the direct beneficiaries meaning is that it is not only the farmers whose agricultural because of agricultural activity increasing or produce will increase, the farmers will not only get rich but also the local business owners and communities will also benefit from this activity. If the drinking water facility is made available to all people, then naturally the standard of living of not only the farmers but other people will also increase. So that is the idea. And why it is required to understand who are the direct beneficiaries. The reason is that, especially in social stock exchange or when we are showing up or measuring the performance, it is important to understand who are the direct beneficiaries and who are the indirect beneficiaries. And why direct beneficiaries size is also important to know is the reason is that how to do a sampling. If at all we have to carry out the sampling of this particular 18 villages, then who all should also be included in the sample size. And why sample size? Because we will have to question these people and understand that whether there is any positive impact also of this social activity. So one of the reasons to understand who all are direct beneficiaries is to know the sample size. So what should be the sample size of direct beneficiaries? That is, understand that there are 18 villages and 25,000 people. Now, if we want to conduct interviews to understand that yeah, इससे कुछ फर्क हुआ है या नहीं, to understand that to who all, how many people should we question? Whether they should be 25,000, it is very difficult to, if we start even interviewing 25,000 people, really, whether it will be humanly possible to go and meet and connect with all of them, it looks slightly impossible. In such case, it is better to, take a sample. Now, how do we take a sample here? That is the second question. What should be the sample size of direct beneficiaries? Can you suggest something in maybe the question answer box? Say maybe, for example, whether the sample size will be 10 people from each village or whether we should go for different kinds of people where if you can suggest 10% out of all categories of beneficiaries. See, look, there are 25,000 people. First of all, okay, 10% from each village. But who all 10%? We can understand that men, women, whether there should be any bifurcation, you feel that we should make of people who are grocers, who are merchants, or farmers, women, children, whether there should be such all categories. Priyanka has mentioned that all categories. Now, how many categories one can think of? See, these are the real life questions. Okay, it is extremely difficult to find out the sample size first. Once, why? Because sample should be from the population and it should be a representation of all sorts of population. I would feel that 10% is bit high. The reason is that uh, each village might not have even the same population percentage. So overall, I think instead of going for each village, we can have out of 25,000 people, we can categorize it into, say, direct beneficiaries, uh, adults to that, and then go on, say, to 5 to 8%. That I think would be maybe 5% only, that would be doable. And we will also have to collect a demographic data before that to understand also that. If the farmer population is less, if the local grocers population is less, if the woman population is higher, out of that even senior woman population is very high, then we will have to resize our sample. So the best idea is to first get a demographic data of the villages and then find out that a percentage from each of the beneficiaries, as she has rightly mentioned, not only the direct beneficiaries but all beneficiaries. But 10% would be a bit high, because look at 25,000 people. Even if we take 2,500 people, it will be extremely difficult to contact them. Generally, I have seen that people look at the sample size of around 200 to 300 people. If you look at the actual social audit reports, which are easily available on the net, then you would find that they have connected to 144 people, 180 people, and like that. I'll also share with you one of the reports that I found on net about the midday meal scheme in Chandigarh district. It is very nicely drafted report. You can have a look at it and also use it as a base for carrying out social audit. So I think the sample size should be much lower and should be around even 2% or 3% of 25,000. But demographic data will be important. See, next question is whether there will be any indirect beneficiaries and then the total number of beneficiaries. Imagine that there are also indirect beneficiaries. If you can think of it, what will be indirect beneficiaries? Who all will be indirect beneficiaries? I'll give you a clue. It is depending upon, dependent people. We are talking of 18 villages, right? So apart from that, there are indirect beneficiaries also to this particular set of villages. Can you imagine who are they? Okay, let me tell. Those are the people from nearby villages. Okay, even they are indirectly benefiting from the, or not only this 18 villages. If I build a water conservation channel or a bund in, say, X village, then naturally there will be some offset, some beneficial in other villages, not only those 18 villages. So, of course, there would be some beneficiaries outside of those villages. Once the standard of living of people in this, say, particularly 18 villages increase, naturally there will be a spillover on the other nearby areas. So, there will be at least the example given says that the indirect beneficiaries were of around 1 lakh people in and around those villages. So you can understand what would be the impact. The reason to understand the number of beneficiaries is also to understand the impact on so much number of people, and that is the reason why we should find out what are the direct beneficiaries and indirect beneficiaries. In case of social stock exchanges, one has to give numbers or percentages of who are directly benefited people. And that is also another reason why one should bifurcate also between direct beneficiaries and indirect beneficiaries, because then we also have to give in percentage terms in case of social stock exchange that who all are benefited. Coming to next question, formulation of questionnaire to understand what has changed. Now, this is the, according to me, this is the most difficult part in the entire social audit, carrying out of social audit, is the formulation of questionnaire to understand what has changed. What type of questions will we be asking these people? Whether they will, what kind of answers will be getting? Should we change the questions at say later point depending upon the answers? That would be one of the things. See, you understand that we are talking about water supply, increase in agricultural produce. We are also talking of drinking water supply. water availability. So how to formulate the question there? It is very easy to say that what was your crop produce earlier and whether that yield has increased. That can be assessed. But how will we assess the impact on your living? What will see? Look at the analysis of what has increased and decreased. The next question set. Quantitative impact very easily can be found out that whether the water availability percentage has increased. That is a easier question also to consider. Then whether drinking water supply in how many number of households have new water supply connection, or whether they are if we go take a sample size, go and ask the person that whether you have a drinking water supply connection at your house, or you have to go out and go to the river or go to the well and then get it. So what exact, or they have to go to say nearby farms or nearby wells and then get their drinking water. How is it? So it is easily understandable the quantitative factors. As far as qualitative factors are concerned, we will have to uh, think and try and use some different innovative approach to really understand what is the difference in soil quality. How will we access? Say, for example, if I think about it, then I will assess the qualitative factors by putting a question that whether the sale of fertilizers has decreased in that area. So that is a negative confirmation of the fact that if the soil quality has increased, then naturally I will use less number of fertilizers. So it will help me to understand that the quality of that soil has increased, and therefore the utilization of fertilizers or artificial supports have also decreased. How to understand improved standard of living? If I say काय मग छान चाललंय का in Marathi, or if I say that कसं काय whether there is any change, then people will not answer you specifically. And oh, nice, very nice. There is some one more thing as if you ask them to quantify it on a scale of 1 to 10, then they will say, okay, my the life has improved considerably, say 6. But there is no measure to it. So how to develop the questions for such kind of things? Say, for example, improved standard of living, there is a different idea to understand whether the standard of living has increased. Say, for example, you can ask in your household, how many people own a smartphone? So if all the earning members of the household own a smartphone and not only the handphone, then one can easily deduce that the standard of living has increased because smartphone will come with the internet. Now the risk factor here is non-availability of internet. But that is a different thing. But availability of smartphone or maybe electronic gadgets, maybe a TV, a high-end TV to that, or two-wheelers, four-wheelers, that kind of, or maybe in not only in rural areas, but in say tier two cities. If you ask them that, do you know about McDonald's? And if they say yes, you can easily come to a conclusion that they can their standard of living has increased and they are now going beyond the local fare and going are more brand conscious. That kind of qualitative indicators are possible, but this we will have to frame very innovatively and by being very creative. So coming to next, these are the questions of case studies. I wish that you would also look at it. Which of the following could be drawbacks for conducting interim social impact of this project? The idea is that we cannot have a social audit uh, only at the end of the project, but we will have to carry out interim social impact of this project. Interim means in between the period of impact through documenting experiences narrated by direct beneficiaries. So, what are the drawbacks? Look at the four answers. Individual benefits to beneficiaries can be captured. It covers only achievement of social mission for direct beneficiaries. Overall social impact cannot be captured. Gaps in implementation cannot be captured. Now, if we have interim means in between, if we do this kind of audit, what will be the drawback? That is the question. Okay, I'll tell this. This is the answer to this is that it will cover on the achievement of social mission for direct beneficiaries. Okay, it may not cover the other parts, and because they are only documenting experiences by the direct beneficiary, so it will only cover theirs, and it will not even cover the gaps in implementation, or overall social impact can also not be captured. So the reason is that only individual benefits can be captured and not the gaps in social impact, because social impact can only be understood at the end of the project or after a certain period the project is over. Perhaps the gaps in implementation can be found out by the interaction with the direct beneficiaries so that you can suggest them. So the right answer will be second, B and C. Second question is related to this Sky Foundation. They are saying that they have carried out a specific matrix, that is social impact assessment matrix, and it is their own built, framework for understanding social impact. Now, what will be the challenge? Now, every person or any person can build such a matrix or can find out a framework where it will be easier for him to carry out social audit. But what is the challenge in this kind of framework is that it will require preset benchmarks for tracking the progress. Now, the challenge it will not have the flexibility to change indicators. That is point C. Rest others will not be a challenge because in fact it is a asset only, that there will be more standardized format of reporting. And if there is a particular timeline or framework which where we can have some action plan, some time plan, then in that case, assessing the progress also is not a challenge. In fact, it will be easier. But once the indicators are set, we will not, or rather the framework will not give us the flexibility to change them, and that will be a challenge. The last question here, as far as this case study is concerned, is what is the mismatch between aims and activities? This is an important question. The reason is that, see here, our idea related to social audit is changed, or we need a different thought process in understanding what are the aims and activities. If you look, I'll just go to the aims and activities again. There you will find out that, look, the aim of the Sky Foundation was to create, uh, you know, increase the agricultural productivity, create some belts or green belts, and create bunds to recharge the groundwater level. This is the aim. But while actually carrying out the activity, whatever they have listed, if you find they have, their aim is to create green belts, but in the activity portion, they have not listed out that they will plant trees. So the idea of this question is, look here, in third point, what are the aims and activities of the RIWM project? Drink mismatch. Drinking water pipeline is not covered in objects. It is covered in the objects. So tree plantation is missing from the activities. Yes, tree plantation is not there. If you look at it, they have their aim is to create a green belt, but unfortunately, in the drop down of activities, they have not listed anywhere that the tree plantation will also be carried out. Check dams are big projects and need huge money. Of course, the spend is also pretty heavy. But measuring agricultural productivity will be a difficult exercise. So, agricultural productivity measurement is not one of the activities that they have listed out. And that is where there is a mismatch. They have thought that this particular, increase of groundwater level or harvesting of rainwater will increase the agricultural productivity. But this is the aim. But whether the activity includes the methods for measuring of agricultural activity or increase in agricultural productivity, it is unfortunately not there in the activities. The derivation from this particular case study is this, that we need, as a social auditor, we also need to understand the gaps in implementation. It is not only the aims and objectives of the project that are important and not also the actual activities that are taking place, but we also need to bridge th these two things, the aims and the activities, whereby we can also understand that why the desired impact is not created by the project. Because many a times it so happens that the aims are pretty correctly stated. However, while breaking them down to the activity level, there is a mismatch, and that leads to the impact gap. And we, as assessment, while carrying out impact assessment, we first need to study this mismatch between what was decided and what has been actually done. Coming to social audit, during social audit, now if you have understood the audit methodology, we have thought of how the audit program will work, how the methodology or different methods are there, then how to carry out social audit. So identify sample size, as we have just seen in this case study, then carry out data collection as per the determined methods. As we just stated, and in the commencement of audit, that we will have to decide how we will be collecting data in the form of questionnaire, formulation of questionnaire, and after that taking interviews, one-on-one interviews, or a group discussion, or we will have, even we can use, IT, that is information technology, for or social media like WhatsApp, for conducting a Google form or a review of it. And we can just send across all the Google forms to be filled in by the sample people. So that kind of use also of IT can be made for data collection activities. So, but that needs to be predetermined first, formulated properly, and then executed. So during social audit, one of the important tasks is to collect the data. Next is to assess the variances between the intended and actual targets. Staff capacity development means what? That, as I mentioned, that while carrying out, interviews also, we will have to sensitize our staff or people who are actually carrying out the data collection activity to such type of things where customs are there. What are the local customs? What are the local manner of speaking things? See, in certain situations, if we go to, say, a lower income group, there is a feeling in their mind that these people have come to just ask questions, and if they ask you or offer tea or coffee, usually the reaction is no, we don't want, because thinking that the area is, what kind of problems will be there or whether it will be hygienic or not. But it is important to sensitize the staff also that one must accept, some drink or not drink, in the sense that tea, coffee, something from them, in order that they will be more friendlier and will have a less guarded attitude. So such type of in staff capacity, especially soft skills capacity, has to be increased. Then what is benchmarking? Benchmarking is formulating and understanding that this is what was say. I'll give you an example of benchmarking, in the sense that if you ask a person to define what is his feeling, it is very difficult to put it in words. So therefore, there are some different ideas to how to do it. In the sense that if you are asked to rank a person on the terms of his clothes or in the terms of his manner of speaking, then it is difficult to describe in words. In that case, a numerical benchmark is used. In India, the context, it is known as paisa, fund, paisa metrics or something like that, where 100 is considered, 100 paise is considered as an indicator, and where the person who is answering will have to say, okay, 25, 50, where he can put some number to his feeling. So one of that, the key impact indicators. So we have to assess the variances, and first, as I said, that we'll have to formulate what are the indicators we are looking for, what are on the basis of question as indicator is that if standard of living has increased, that standard of living is an indicator. So that standard of living is an impact indicator whereby we can understand that really the impact has been made. Then there are internal or external audit, depends upon how the variances will take place. Review responses of stakeholders to evaluate for the evaluation questions. How the stakeholders are answering. Sometimes it is possible that they are not open enough or free enough to answer certain questions. So we will have to plug in or factor in some bias into such kind of answers and then formulate our own opinion. So we must also have an understanding of what is the response of stakeholders and how far they are, actual or related, correct, or maybe sometimes due to peer pressure, some people may answer yes, yes, or something of that. Also, how the responses are there. We must also ask our people who are doing the questionnaires or carrying out the data collection to record the interviews also, so that at a later date we can also review it once again if we feel that the responses are not indicative of what our intuition has been telling us. So next is assessing the demonstration of the social intent of the organization. If the what is the social intent of the organization? If it is to reduce carbon footprint, or then, and in that case, if the social organization itself is using plastic water bottles, then one also has to question the intent, that it is only what exactly they are intending to do. So even the fabric of the organization, cultural fabric, the social fabric of that organization also will have to be reviewed by the social auditor. Of course, this is my view, there's nowhere it has been put into practice. But my intuition also helps me. That is somewhere what is known as professional skepticism. I, as an auditor, will also have to make use of my this intuition or skepticism while even carrying out the social audit. Now, how to work with the data? Before coming to the conclusion of any kind of audit, we will also have to think about what the data is speaking. So, determination of the data required. First, before working with data collection, we will also have to first determine what exactly all the data is required from the stakeholders, from the key persons. Now, what is the time plan? In which time zone we will require the data. If we start our first interview, say in the month of May, and we do our last interview in the month of December, the responses will totally vary. So it is important that we have a time plan to conduct the kind of assessment we have to do. Then we will also have to think about limitations while collecting such data. And then there are past evaluations, baseline studies. If you remember, we were talking about baseline studies, and I said that I'll talk about it at a later date. So, baseline studies is basically a study that is being carried out before the start of a project. So, if we talk about say learning centers, then in that case, before the learning center was there, what was the situation? Whether the people were attending the school, dropping out of it, were not interested in studying, what was the problem? So, somewhere uh, before starting of the project, we need to understand what was the situation before the project. So that is, in other words, is a baseline study. What is the base? What from that point, how the project has made a change, and that's why baseline study and carrying out proper baseline study is also important. Here there is one more opportunity which I will like to cite here, that baseline studies in the respect of SDGs. SDGs is Sustainability Development Goals. So, what are sustainability development goals? There are around 17 sustainability development goals. Now, just like, so for example, I will say employment opportunities or gender equalities, life above water, life on earth, life below water. So, these are kind of sustainability goals where we, as a as people, we have to understand what also is required for the planet to be sustainable, and whether the a geographical area to where we are confining our studies, how far they have progressed in terms of sustainability. So this kind of baseline study also will afford an opportunity, because not all people have the willingness, the innovation to carry out such baseline studies. So perhaps even you might benefit from it by using your creative thoughts. Data collection sources. Once we have determined what data all is to be collected, then we will also have to think about from where this data will be collected. So there are two main sources. One is the primary source and other is secondary source. So primary source involves interviews, questionnaires, focused group discussion. Focused group discussion means collect a group of people where they will be discussing upon certain questions thrown to them or thoughts thrown to them, and from that discussion we will also understand that whether their impact has been made, there is some positive or negative change that has been happening in that community. Secondary source includes newspapers, opinions, research papers. Some news are there coming out that uh, the farmers have done suicide. So we can think of whether it is related to this particular village, why that has happened, what was the impact. Is it because, say, this kind of water harvesting or rainwater harvesting facility has failed? Whether that is the reason of this news. How many such news are there? Such kind of things. Coming to data cleaning, analysis, and interpretation, that is the last part while we are working with data. That whatever data is there, we need to understand that data first. It is possible that while even carrying out sampling, we have the persons have managed to collect samples from the same person or ask questions of the same persons, because one from say one village, and that person has gone to other village and the other person has also questioned him there. Then in such cases, we need to remove the duplicates. So that kind of data cleaning exercise also needs to be carried out before going in for analysis and interpretation of the data collected. And then last is in the social audit is formation of opinion. The best evaluation idea is to find out intervention is the activity, social activity that is being carried out. If this intervention or the social activity was not carried out, what would have been the impact? Or if because the intervention or the activity is carried out, what was the result? So the difference, evidence changes. The reason I put it in inverted commas is the change is possible, but it also should be evidenced. It should not be only a feeling. And that is where the social audit part comes in, where our audit comes in, that documentation before formation of opinion is also important. We should not just feel it, we should also evidence it with the help of our data. Identify specific evaluation criteria, that is key impact indicators. So what are key impact indicators? There are two, quantitative and qualitative. We already discussed about what are quantitative indicators and what are qualitative indicators. And then based upon that key impact indicators and our of course our questionnaire will also be formulated based upon these key impact indicators, and then based upon our questionnaire, the data collected on this questionnaire, and then our own analysis, we will be able to assess that whether really these key impact indicators have worked, how far they have worked, what is the quantification of it, things like that. And then the final assessment, including the audit opinion. What is our final opinion? Whether the activity has really created an impact? If it has created an impact, how much impact it has created? Preparation of audit report, format of audit report is easily available. I would not delve deep into the what are the contents of an audit report because they are fairly standard. But the whole point here is to understand the impact assessment and to evaluate that impact. That is the crux of this entire social audit. Challenges, we'll just address into challenges, and I have highlighted three things. We will look into that. That what are proxy indicators? Proxy indicators means if at all a specific impact cannot be quantified, then how will we do that? The proxy indicators, if you remember when we talked about standard of living, so standard of living per se cannot be identified unless if they are filing income tax returns. We can easily understand from income tax returns if their income has increased, but then that is a financial indicator. What about non-financial indicators? So proxy indicators are pseudo indicators, just like as I mentioned that whether they are using smartphones, whether they are going to which place they are living, what things they own. Such kind of indicators also give an idea about whether their standard of living has increased. So those are known as proxy indicators. Paisa scale is like that scale where we numerically state that, okay, this is what I feel. So giving a number to the feeling that, as if you remember that even in case of films, the critics use this kind of scale They use a star scale where they give, say, 5-star ranking, 3-star ranking. So, what exactly is the total impact of that film? That can be indicated by way of some measure, say numbers, 5 stars, 2 stars. Similar, the Paisa scale is used in case of giving a number to the feeling. And then the third part is narrative numeracy methods. This is a narrative numeracy means that if I am saying that I have volunteers of 100, a number of volunteers 100, then that itself does not create as much impact. But narrative numeracy means a small army of 100 volunteers. That is the way I narrate it. Then it is called a narrative numeracy. It will help in assessing and capturing software data while understanding the social impact. So these are the different methods or indicators how we can capture the soft data. Although it is a challenge, we can mitigate. Soft data means capturing the qualitative feelings or feelings, you can say. Then this kind of methods can be used. Then other limitations, of course, as I mentioned, questionnaire is a basic problem and also a challenge. I will not say it as a problem, it is a challenge to create a questionnaire. Then capturing social and economic impact is a tough task. Traceability of certain stakeholders group, that is, if they are nomads in that, then they will change location. We might think today that I will go and interview 3 nomads, but what if they have left that village the other day? Then that is very difficult to find out and stick to the sample size. So that is a challenge. Then assess access to appropriate data in a user-friendly manner. So for example, if I go to a primary school or I go to a gram panchayat and I ask them for certain data, they might be suspicious of me that as to why I want that data. And that creates or poses a challenge even in case of carrying out the social audit. I'll just touch upon the opportunities here. You all have this presentation. You can always look at it at length. SSE, that is Social Stock Exchange, where a social audit is required to find out the impact. And once the social stock exchange or an entity is registered upon it, it is mandatory to find out the social impact for the funds that they have received. Second is BRSR. Now, let me take a moment here to tell you that CSR implementation and utilization is one of the certificate courses of ICAI. Even BRSR is a certificate course of ICAI. Please go through both of these post qualification certifications. It will help you to go and crack the social audit test. So how to be a social auditor? We have talked about what are the different ways to carry out social audit and what are the challenges in it, but how to be it. So, a social auditor, as a chartered accountant, it is easier for me because then I can just give an exam of NISM and receive a certificate on successful completion of that exam. After that, all the social auditors like me and my friends who are all social auditors are empaneled with Institute of Social Auditors of India, which is a separate, SRO. That and then we also have a sustainability directorate, which is created under the aegis of ICAI. So please pass the social audit exam. It is easily, it is a self-paced exam. We can register for it, give the exam, and be a social auditor. Lastly, I'll be talking about mindset of social auditor because mindset, why it is important. The reason is that it is not only we are born financial auditors. We can say that we have been studying and carrying out the financial audit for number of years. But social auditor requires a different mindset. For example, you need to be inquisitive coupled with healthy skepticism, which why I've given example of midday meals is that in one of the cases I had observed that in midday meals, the amount of say rice to be given to a 14-year-old is defined by the government. But really speaking, whether that boy or the girl eats that much rice, that is a question, and that is the inquisitiveness that you have to bear in mind with a skepticism that whether really it is possible. Then I also went and did a stock audit of the entire rice and that khichdi specifically. Then in that case, I found out that it is possible that some boys eat more, some boys eat less. Then exactly what is the total amount that is utilized? So that kind of inquisitiveness one must have. And ultimately, what is this midday meal for? To get the people and to the schools, and their parents don't have to worry about, and that is kind of a lure, a carrot to them to come and study. But whether it is really happening. So that inquisitiveness and a skepticism also is required for a social auditor. It is also the ability to understand programs in their wider social context. In the sense, we only do not have to think about the activity per se, but say, for example, I have said trees. There is a tree plantation program. If you all who are working in this CSR space, then you would understand there's a lot of funds that are received for plantation of trees. But our thought should be, in my to my mind, that what kind of trees are going to be planted, whether they will be okay with this geographical terrain, whether they will be geomap, whether they will live, what all things are made for the condition or situations, or whether there are programs to take conserve those trees. Those kind of things also need to be thought of while we are thinking of impact studies. Skill sets, we need to have, of course, domain expertise in various kinds of laws and standards related to social audits. We all have auditing skills, so I will not talk about it. Then, in case of stakeholder consultation methods, we will have to understand the mindset of the stakeholders. See, the auditor should be able to deduce the relevance and suitability of the consultation methods. Lastly, it has to be good and effective communication skills. It is extremely important for a social auditor to have communication skills and be a good listener, because most of the data collection exercise depends upon how effectively you can communicate your questions and how you can derive the answers. Because the correct answers and good communication skills will help you to assess the impact better. It is also personal one-to-one communication that also matters, and the skill to interpret the answers, that will also help you to give a proper opinion or correct opinion about the impact studies. So it is the communication skill that will make or break any social audit. That is what my say is. And the ability to make decisions, problem solving skills. The reason is, ultimately, this is also related to communication, that if at all there are innovative, creative thoughts to be had, it starts from the point of problem solving. What would be a question? What activities that person should be carrying out to have that particular social impact? It starts from thinking of such questions and then finding out answers for it and then comparing it with actual activities carried out. So these are the basic skill sets of an auditor. Lastly, we have to start of thinking from how much is spent to how well it serves. That is, whether the money spent is effectively spent, and how, where it has gone, and how it has served well, whether it has served well. So social audit is a different call. As chartered accountant, as I have stated here, we are trained to measure income, but we need to find out about impact. The thing that I put in bold will sum up what exactly a social audit is. It holds up the mirror to not just performance, but purpose. What was the actual purpose? Whether the activity that is being carried out has actually made a change, and how much change it has made. And lastly, whether it has created real value for the communities for which that impact was intended. So thank you very much. These are the two quotes which are thought that will sum up what we need to do. So we need to stop treating the environment as an afterthought. We as chartered accountants can also make a difference, and how we can make a difference by contributing effectively to social impact assessments that will help the social cause. If any questions are there, please feel free to write to me or talk to me or even to ask now. Thank you.
Hi, do we have any questions?
If there are no questions, they can also write to me or talk to me anytime.
Let's just give some more time if there might be some questions, so they might pop or they might be writing on the webinar chat.
Charu, you have any questions?
No, ma'am. But I must say, you have explained the topic so well, and wherein the focus of the topic was how are we going beyond the books, wherein we are not marking that income is important. What are you calculating is not important, but how are you moving through that point, which plays a very
Right.
important role, right? And at the same time, the major takeaway which I really liked about the session was that be a good listener. At least listen first. What I think each and every auditor needs to have that. It of course resembles along with your career, your personal characteristics. It plays a very important role, that how are you listening. And second is the problem solving capacity. Because if you look the
Right.
problem as a problem, you'll be never able to solve the problem. Ho gayi problem, it's enough.
Right.
But then you have to think of a way that how are you going to mitigate it, what are the actionables to close it. But yes, which is the major part. I would take it ahead. I think there are no questions to really thank you, CA Ruta Chitle, for giving us beautiful insights on this topic beyond the books, uncovering the impact through social audit, and how can we really deep dive into through auditing, which is the most important part, and not just the income. You have stuck to the topic so well and enlightened us. I think all our fraternity around in this session would have a lot of
Right.
takeaways, and feeling maybe motivated, and they might use these takeaways. At least I am going to use these 2 3 takeaways, which is going to path me to how am I going to move ahead. Thank you everyone for joining, for your
Thank
involvement,
you.
and
Thank
for
you
the
so much.
reminders.
Priyanka, please feel free to contact me anytime, the one
Mhm.
who was mentioned. And thank you, Charu, for this.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
See you. Bye. Yeah.
We'll leave now.
Yeah.
Thanks.